Good morning. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Brooke.
And this is Mornings with Riddle. We are so excited today because Anne Merson, who is an interior designer and senior move manager, is joining us to give us some tips and really great ideas for getting ready to make a move to a community.
Right, and we're actually in one of our model apartments today that Anne helped us furnish. She has so many great ideas and helpful behind the scenes tips that you might not have even thought about. So why don't we take a look at her interview?
Let's do it.
Today, I'm so excited to be joined by Anne Merson, who is an interior designer and senior move manager. We have been so fortunate to work with Anne for many years, and we really appreciate Anne you taking the time to join us today.
It's my pleasure. It's exciting to be here. We're going to talk this morning about going through the process of downsizing and planning for your move, getting out of your home and moving into a community. And the first thing I will say to you, you do have to downsize, you will have to get rid of things. This is a process. It is not something that you do quickly.
No, not at all.
And it's a process that works better if you have an overall master plan. It's good to start early, even if you're not ready to move yet, but you've been in your house for a number of years and you know there's stuff that you need to look at and get rid of. Most important is to establish a plan and have some idea of where you're going, when you're going, what size the space will be, and then ask children, family members, friends, is there anything that you want? But make sure it's something that you don't want to take with you before you ask them. I think it's a good idea to outfit yourself with different colored dots, Post-it notes, painter's tape, packing paper, boxes, scissors, basic supplies. The colored dots you can use to tag things using one color if it's going with you, one color if it's going to donation, one color if it's going to this particular child, another colored dot if it's going to another child, and if you need more dots than that, then you're going to need more colors. That way you can visually keep track of what is going where and begin to group those things together so that they're not scattered all over the house. I also recommend that you plan your time so that it's not so overwhelming. Pick one area and allow yourself 2, maybe 3 hours max to work on that and then stop, because it is exhausting physically and it's also exhausting emotionally, because what you're sorting through is going to bring up a lot of memories and you're going to need time to process that.
And can I ask you a question about that? Because we get a lot of people that I think the biggest thing is being overwhelmed, right? And so they don't know where to start. When you're telling people to do it in shorter increments, I think that's a wonderful tip. Where should they start though? Like if you're looking at a typical house, what do you tell a client? Like what's the best space to start? Do you go for the big things? Do you start small? What do you think is the best way to go?
I think it's better to start small and start in a room like a guest room.
Okay.
That's not a room you use very much.
Mm-hmm.
Don't start with the full attic or the full basement.
Mm-hmm.
Start someplace where you can accomplish it and just kind of close the door and you're done.
And feel like you did it.
Feel like you did it.
Okay.
And this is where the Post-it notes come in, that when you finish a closet, you can put a Post-it note on the door or a colored sticker, and you just know when you walk in that room, I have done this.
Staples will be your best friend in the beginning.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, sorry, that was a great tip though.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people ask about that.
The other thing that takes time is going through your files. Try not to bring that big 4-drawer file that everyone has.
Mm-hmm.
Try to winnow that down. Talk with your accountant about what you actually need to keep.
Yeah.
Files that you don't need on a regular basis can go in banker's boxes and be stored in the closet.
Right.
But shred everything that needs to be shredded that you don't need to have come with you.
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
And the other thing is going through family photos, and those are really hard because some people have a lot of them. Select the ones that you want to bring with you and where they're going to go, but a lot of them are not coming with you and going to be sitting out in picture frames all over.
Right, you're storing them essentially.
You're storing
Yeah.
them, and you can take them out of the frames and then donate the frames. And then keep them in folders or whatever so you can still look through them. Some people like to have their photographs digitized.
I've started to hear this. I actually have had a few clients who a gift from their children was that, and they were hesitant at first because I think people like to have the material in place, but now they have a few of those digital frames that just cycle through the pictures, and they're so thankful because now they're seeing pictures they hadn't seen in years.
And face it, you're not going to go back and pull out the box and go through those photographs.
You
Even
think
though
you will,
think
yeah.
you will. And even though you think you will, you're likely not going to do that. The other thing I say to people is understand that you don't have to do heavy lifting. Hire somebody, hire a professional to do that for you, just to get things from out of your closet into bags and into the garage so they can be picked up.
Yeah.
Some people think I have to just take this to Goodwill and I have to take this there and I have to take there. And some people can do that,
Right.
but some people can't.
Right.
And if you get things organized and into a pickup location, then you can call a company to come pick up and get rid of stuff that way. And it feels so good to have that stuff gone.
Yeah, I mean, I know personally, like even once a year doing my closet, you feel like a little bit of a weight's been lifted off just going through
You
it.
do.
Yeah.
Because having clutter around and having that kind of really does weigh you down.
Yeah.
And it kind of clutters your mind, and you just feel freer when you've accomplished this. And also I tell people, keep in mind, that the things that you don't need that are in good shape will be a huge gift to someone who doesn't have what you have.
That's a really nice point.
This
right?
goes for clothes, for people who need it for jobs. It goes for house furnishings, it goes for kitchen things, it goes really for everything.
Right.
So you're really giving somebody else an opportunity to own something that you've enjoyed who won't be able to pay that much money for it. So it's not really it's going to a really good second home.
Now, if we could just shift gears for a second,
Sure.
because I think something that you really thrive on is working with people transitioning to smaller spaces. So it's no secret when a prospective resident is going to be moved from their home, most likely there is a downsizing process to it. And one of the things that I hear often is, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to bring all the things that I want to keep. There's a lot of things in a home that have emotional value to it. And I know you've, for many years, been specializing in people moving to smaller spaces. So what kind of tips or what do you do when you work with clients that maybe have that family heirloom table that they need to have, or what do you do to help them go through that process of really connecting with and figuring out what needs to come?
Well, the first thing I want to do is to get a floor plan of the unit that they're going into in the community.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter kind of what size it is, because I can enlarge it to get it to 1/4 scale, because the furniture template that I work with is at 1/4 scale.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to get that floor plan, and I can flip it if we need to have the mirror image of it, so that's not a problem. What I want to do is to measure the furniture that people want to have go with them.
Right.
And I say to them, I want to know the things that you absolutely must have, and I want to know the things you'd like to have if they can fit.
Yeah.
And then we have an outline of what they have, and we have the plan. And then I can sit down with them, or sometimes if it's more complicated, I need time to play with it myself, and actually see what does go there. And sometimes, and very often, more will fit than people think.
And I think that's very interesting you say that, because we really do try to have furnished models like the one we're sitting in now, which you always are so gracious to help us and make sure it looks and feels like a place you could call home. And I know that you've worked with people that have told me afterwards, I didn't think that my piano was going to fit, or I didn't think, and I so often hear people that don't work with senior move managers, once they move in, like, oh, I could have kept that. And we always hate to hear that, because, if you take the extra time to do that floor planning, which you are so great at, most of the time we find that those people are able to keep the things they really, really want.
Most of the time they are, and often what we may do is repurpose something, like something that might have been your buffet in the dining room
Okay.
now becomes your media cabinet, and you
yeah.
can wall mount the television over it. Or, maybe a little desk that you had can be one of the nightstands. Or, we try to work things in and find a new purpose for them if it's something really, really important that the person wants to have with them.
Right.
And sometimes you have to buy something. The two items I find most people needing to buy are a smaller dining table,
Yep.
no more seating for 12,
Yeah.
and often a sleep sofa.
Yeah.
If they want to be able, they don't have a second bedroom, or even if they do and want to use it as an office, it can be a study den office, but then still open out and allow them to have somebody stay overnight. Or if one person is sick and has a bad cold, the other one has another bed to sleep in.
Right, and those are all great options to consider, because I think a lot of people still think in the terms of how they live in their home. And when you move to retirement communities, your lifestyle does shift.
It does.
So it doesn't mean you stop cooking, but most of the time, if someone's hosting a party of 12, a community that you're going to look at is going to have private dining venues or large tables in the restaurant areas. And similarly, going to the bed option, it's great to have a sleeper sofa, but I know there's a lot of communities like ourselves that offer like rollaway beds that can come into your apartment, or even guest suites. So knowing those options are available really does help to figure out what you can bring with you. So I would love to end with, if you wouldn't mind, I know you work with a lot of clients, what would be your biggest tip? Because one of the biggest objections that we often see, and I know this is across the board, is leaving the house and downsizing and going through all your items. If you could tell somebody that you were talking to today, I really want to move to this place, but I don't know what to do. I don't know where to begin. What do you think is the best tip to give somebody in the beginning of this process?
I think getting a timeline. You are moving. When do you anticipate moving?
Right.
Do you need to put your house on the market before you move, or can you put it on after you move?
Right.
Because that has a lot to do with how we strategize. And then I back up from what is going to be your move-in date, or date when your unit is ready, and what do we have to do between now and then.
Right.
And then we work out a plan. And if someone really, I know, is not going to be able to do the sorting on their own and meet the timeline, then I will recommend that they have someone who specializes in sorting and packing up stuff for donation and all of that, to get it moving.
Right.
And they also keep you organized. They will say, okay, we're doing this today. Your homework is to do this before I come back next week. And you move along at a schedule, and it keeps you from getting overwhelmed.
Right. And then just to speak to our people, because we have quite a few people on our wait list that are just waiting for our 2 bedrooms to become available. And, some people are waiting a year, maybe even longer. They can start now, right?
Absolutely.
That would be the route to go.
It is much easier to start before you have to, as we say.
That's great, yeah.
Start before you have to, because if you get down to a situation where you need to move in 2 months because your unit's going to be ready and you haven't even started, you're really behind the game here. So everybody's always got stuff that has been up in the attic or been in the basement or whatever. You haven't looked at it. Yeah, I know. And just get rid of some of that stuff.
Right.
And then winnow it down, and then when you're ready to look at moving, you'll be focusing on what am I going to take with me, what is going to children, all of that sort of thing. The one thing we always say too is, for your children, give them a deadline. Because they're famous for saying, yeah, Mom, yeah, I want that, I want that. And, Christmas comes and they come to visit and stuff doesn't go, and you get ready to move and the kids' stuff are still here. Mm-hmm. So you need to set a timeline. If you really want it, we're moving in 2 months, you need to get it. Or we ship it or whatever.
I love that tip. I'm probably guilty of that myself, so sorry, Mom and Dad. And thank you so much for joining us today. And after this video, we'll make sure that your contact information's on it, because if you're somebody who is in that position where either you're ready or maybe you're ready in a year from now, like Anne said, it's never too early to start, and we can speak from experience. She does a fabulous job. So thank you, Anne.
Thank you so much.
All right.
It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.
What a great conversation with Anne. She is so helpful, has so many great tips. Like, I wouldn't have even thought about when she mentioned repurposing furniture, things that you might have an emotional attachment to. It might be a family heirloom. She mentioned you could just repurpose it, maybe put it in another room, and that way you can bring it to your smaller space.
I love that, and I also loved the piece of advice about using those little stickies that are color-coded, so you can get yourself organized, whether you're moving 2 months from now or 2 years from now. Just really great piece of advice. We really enjoyed having Anne here this week. We always enjoy bringing our audience a lot of additional information, and we can't wait to come back next week with all things Riddle Village.
Sounds good. We'll see you next week.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye.